We settled against a wall and proceeded to eat our lower jaws while jabbering about everything culinary we could think of. We were inspired by our boss, a young chef named Grant Achatz. We worked at what we knew was one of the best restaurants in the United States, a small place in Evanston, just north of Chicago, called Trio. 2 nights before, I had been on the phone with Elizabeth. I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the wall. I had just left work. I wore a pair of pinstriped slacks with a creased front that I had purchased from my interview at Trio. I lit a cigarette. I told her about one of the dishes, a Bloody Mary on a plate. She couldn't believe it. Yeah, so it's this tomato that they confit. What's confit? Well, typically that's something cooked in its own fat until it's tender and falls from the bone. I took a drag from my cigarette, feeling smart. In this case, they cook the tomato in olive oil very gently until it's very soft, but still intact. Uh-huh, she said, listening with intent. Then there's a celery granita, which is like a shaved ice. There's cubes of Worcestershire gel and black pepper and red wine vinaigrette, and then we spray vodka on it. How do you do that? She asked. It's incredible, she said before I could finish. You always had to talk over Bunny if you wanted to get your point across, and even then, it was still often lost, depending on how much she had had to drink. I didn't care. I liked telling her things like this. She was the one who really taught me how to love food. Of course, there were my mom and dad, but she pushed me out of my comfort zone. Like the first time we went to a Dead concert and afterward went to a bar in Nashville and she fed me oysters Rockefeller. What the hell? I didn't want to eat those slimy things. But she told me I should, so I did. And I fell in love. August 2002. Fancy people ate at Trio. Grant's food was fun and also tasted very good, but was super duper expensive. There was this little Willy Wonka doodad that hung on a needle, and when you set it on your tongue, it tasted like a pepperoni pizza. I couldn't get over it. Pepperoni pizza. It was cheesy, and you could taste the tomatoes, fennel, sage. It was crazy. I had only ever been more inspired by writers, like Hubert Selby Jr., who might have been just above Grant if I'd had a running list. Back then, when you went for a job interview, it was usually after you'd seen an ad for the position in the classified section of the newspaper. I'd wait each Thursday for the new Chicago Reader to be released. I'd read through, making red checks next to potential places. But Trio, I circled. I figured even getting in the door, there was an opportunity. At this point, even the name Charlie Trotter I had heard only a few times. I didn't know a lot about Trio either, but I knew those kinds of places were way out of my reach, both eating and working there. For me, my courage is sort of equal to my fear. There's really no middle, with anything. Rejection only taught me how to do it differently the next time. And there was that thing I learned from Tammy, who learned it from Alyssa. What are you waiting for? Permission? I think there was even a magnet on Tammy's fridge that said that. I called Trio, and after a few short questions about my experience, they told me to come in that following Wednesday. I put on the pinstriped suit I had bought on credit at Club Monaco. My hair had grown out about 2 inches since the last time I'd had it shaved. I had a couple of little tattoos that were easy to hide. At that time, hiding them was still necessary in order to look professional, even in the restaurant business. Trio was in an old colonial-style building that doubled as a boutique hotel. As I stood outside, I was even more intimidated. I walked in, pulling my shoulders up to my ears, which was something I eventually learned I did without realizing it when I was a bit afraid. I asked the girl at the hotel's front desk where to go, and she pointed to a tiny corridor lined with chairs. I sat down, feeling a little claustrophobic. The walls and ceiling seemed to close in on me. A young guy in a chef's coat, black pants, and blue apron came out and sat next to me. I reminded myself to sit up straight. I looked at my chewed nails and immediately felt discomfort. I put my hands under my